Hi, I'm E.W. Claville, and this is the Claville Report Synopsis. Today we're going to talk about the Supreme Court and Justice Thomas's writing about the crushing student loan debt. The Supreme Court will decide this year whether Joe Biden's forgiveness of student loans is constitutional or not. But Justice Thomas wrote a very interesting piece about this. He wrote about his experience and how student loan debt was debilitating in his life, even as a Supreme Court justice. Where do we go from here? How is student loan forgiveness going to affect the United States? And what is the future of the economy if student loans are not forgiven or students receive help? We'll talk about it in just a moment. Justice Thomas, writing about the crushing student loan debt that he experienced while in Yale Law School and after he graduated, even as Supreme Court Justice, was eye-opening to many, including myself. You know, all of us, if not I'll say the vast majority, we know someone, if all of us have not, had to take out student loans in order to pay for a portion of all of our higher education. Without student loans, many of us would not have had the ability in order to be educated. But should student loans have been a burden in order for you to achieve financial freedom? Should it have been an albatross around the necks of so many in the event that they didn't receive the employment that they were seeking after they received their degrees? Well, Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, of course, was challenged, and it's in the Supreme Court now. And the Supreme Court is going to decide the future of it. In other words, they'll decide whether it's constitutional or not to forgive $10,000 or $20,000 of individuals that receive federal student loans. Now, of course, this doesn't include Pell Grants. It doesn't even touch or cover private loans, but only federal student loans. Why does this matter? Why is it important? Because so many students are experiencing financial hardships and have been for years because of the load of paying back student loans. Now, I will say, I've been on record, and I'll say it again, I don't think that students should have ever been subjected to loans to go to school, but rather payments to them that would turn into grants in the event that they graduated and paid a certain amount of money. Very similar to a forgiveness grant, or not so much Pell Grant, but rather a forgiveness grant with some type of community service with X amount of payments that are paid. In other words, once you graduate, if you make 120 payments consecutively or overall, then your loans are forgiven, or 60 payments, whatever the case may be. The grant itself is forgiven. I think that would be more of a hand up than what we're experiencing today. Now, of course, there are some European countries where you can go, and also others across the world, where they actually pay for your higher education as a whole. Will we ever get there? I don't know, but it'll be very nice to see us do so. But what we're dealing with now is, what is the future of this program? Well, with the conservative court, we may find that the student loan forgiveness program will be in jeopardy. But a very surprising writing about the criticism and the real experience of the debt and the crushing debt of student loans came from the most conservative member of the court, none other than Justice Thomas. According to this ABC News article, it said that Justice Clarence Thomas was in his mid-40s and in his third year on the nation's highest court, the U.S. Supreme Court, when he paid off the last of his debt from his time at Yale Law School. I want that to soak in for a minute, because I had to read that over again. Mid-40s, but not so much mid-40s, but in his third year on the bench of the U.S. Supreme Court before he actually was able to pay off his debt. To me, that's astonishing, because it tells me it takes the ability for you to pay off your debt to be elevated to the highest office in your profession before you have enough money to actually do so. You know, it also shows, this article points out that other justices have their own experience, and also can be relevant in the case that's before the court. But Thomas, he wrote about the role of student loans and it played in his financial struggles in his memoir. In a 2007 best-selling memoir, My Grandfather's Son, he said a fellow law school student even suggested he declare bankruptcy after graduating to get out from under the crushing weight of all his student loans. Bankruptcy, just to escape the crushing weight of student loans. Now, of course, it says it's not clear if other justices receive student loans to go to school. A lot of them come from wealthy families. Many of them take advantage, like a lot of us, in savings accounts for college kids in order to go to school, 529 programs, where the money grows tax-free for them to go to school, which again is open to all parents and individuals. But what Thomas showed, it said that he wrote vividly about his past money woes. According to the article, it says, it is Up from Poverty story, recounting how a bank once foreclosed on one of his loans because repayment and delinquency notices were sent to his grandfather's house in Savannah as opposed to his house where he lived in Missouri. He said at the time, Thomas's first wife, Kathy, was pregnant. He said, I didn't know what else to do. So I signed on the dotted line and spent the next 2 decades paying off the money he had borrowed for his last 2 years at Yale Law School. Again, family situations necessitates the need in order to secure additional funding to reach your goal. We all have to do that. But should it be so crushing? Should it be so difficult once you do receive these funds in order to pay it back? So it said that it's helpful, according to Justice Sotomayor. She said it's helpful to have people with life experiences that are varied because it enriches the conversation. Like Thomas, who also grew up poor. Now, she said she got a full scholarship to Princeton in undergrad and went on to Yale Law School just as Thomas did. But again, in order to make it through school, student loans had to become a reality. So what would happen? We don't really know. I can't really call this one. Will the student loan forgiveness program be deemed unconstitutional because a provision under the Department of Education? Probably so. I can see that. But will it be a program that's going to go away? The answer is no. I believe it's going to be a program that we find a way to make it work. Because if the longest standing Supreme Court justice on the court had to endure over 2 decades of the crushing weight of student loan debt and almost filed for bankruptcy, how much more does the story need to be told about all of us? This has been another Claville Report Synopsis, and we'll see what happens next time.